So we're in Portskerra, just like we are right now. But the year is 1918. And it's August, the 22nd. And it's a Thursday. And it, unlike today, was an absolutely stunningly beautiful, hot summer's day. In fact, it was a bit claggy, you know, that kind of just a wee bit too warm, a wee bit too sweltering. And because it is 1918, lots of the men were away from the village. They were away at the war still, because it still hadn't ended. So the folk that were in the village mainly were the older men, the women and the children. But I've been told there were some men home from furlough. They were on a break from the war and back here. And they were all out and they were making hay. So they were cutting and they were making wee kind of coals of hay, and then they would have made them into bigger and into a haystack. But it was so warm. And like it gets here, the midges were out and just nipping at them. And so they were like, God, I've had enough of this. And so the idea came to one or maybe some of them to go out in the boats, and that they'd go out to the sea and they'd get some fish. Maybe it would just be for the village so that something to eat, or maybe there'd be enough that they could actually sell some and make a wee bit of money as well. So they finished with the hay and they came down, and they would have gone down through between Shona and I's houses here, right up into the headland here to the boats. And the boats would have been right here, right below my kitchen. And they wouldn't have been on the winches, they would have actually been in the water, because it was summertime in Bonnie. They'd have gone into the boats, and then they were away. And I would imagine all the folk would have come down and watched them, like the wives and the mothers and sisters and all the bairns. And I had always been told that the young boy Fraser from the mill house was the youngest boy to go out. And he was 15, and it was his first time out, and he went out with his dad and with his uncle. But actually, I hear that the young boy living next door to here, in what would have been Shona's house now, he was only 14, Shorrock Mackay, and he went out that day as well. Anyway, in the way that it can do when the weather's that muggy, things just turned bad, and a storm came in really, really fast. And so the folk on the headland are watching, and they can see the boats are in trouble, and they can see the boats trying to come in. And you know, when I'd heard this story before, I always thought they were out there towards Orkney, but they weren't. I just heard a few days ago, they were actually just at Big House Head. They were just below there. And I don't know if you've noticed, but when the water's low there, they have these rocks that look like wee teeth, black, the Beeracks. They're there. So they were just beyond that, and they're trying to come back. And of course, there's no engines. They've got sails and they've got oars. And a lot of these men are older. Like one of the men was 75 years old. And they're out there and they're fishing for herring, and they've got nets, and it's hard work. But a lot of them are older. And they're trying to make it back. And a lot of them weren't fishermen. You know, they were joiners, they were millers. They turned their hand to the sea, but they weren't fishermen. So as they're trying to make it back, and they're trying to get, and we have the Ayach and we have Scairfurst, these big rocks, these big kind of, you know, ways where the tide gets and the sea gets confused around, they weren't going to make it. So they could see they were going to turn off and try to get into Melvick, into the bay there with the beach. But at that point, visibility just went down. Nobody from the shore could see to the boats couldn't see to the shore. So they all went down to the Melvick. They're down on the beach, and they see 3 boats come in. 1, 2, 3, right up on the shore. And they're hauling the boats up, and they're all feeling so relieved that there's going to be a happy ending. The men come out, and there's a 4th boat. Up it comes, and they're away and over. And it's right beside Big House Head. But there's nobody in it. And it's the Vine, the Fraser's boat. And the boat that goes round with the fishermen and comes in at Sunside, and they're fine. There's a boat that comes up, and a man comes out, climbs onto the rocks, and he walks home. But the Vine, it stayed in the sand, and nobody moved it. It just stayed there. And the big storm of 52, 53, it surfaced, but nobody shifted it.